I'm a professor of holistic health for the last decade, and my dissertation research was about women healers. So I traveled around, I've been to 40 different countries. I'm passionate about women who practice all different kinds of medicine: Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, shamanic medicine, Western medicine, energy medicine. And before I entered into that world, I didn't even know there was 100 different kinds of medicine. But that's what I studied, that's what I researched, and then that's what I started teaching. And the reason that I created this event is because I wanted to embrace all kinds of healers so that they could be empowered to continue their practice even in the digital age, even in this age of transition. So something a bit unfortunate happened to me in 2013. So I was doing some travel. I was teaching my classes. I teach about 3 classes per semester. I was making my way through life. I wasn't super ecstatic about things, but I was comfortable. And my brother called me up, and he looked a bit nervous about the conversation. We were Skyping, and I thought maybe something had happened with like his most recent girlfriend or whatever. And then he was like, I have to tell you something. And don't you love when people say that? Like, I have to tell you something. So the I have to tell you something was down as cancer. So my dad's cancer started in his esophagus, and it moved into his liver, and then it moved into his brain. And my dad was a neurologist and a psychiatrist, and he was a phenomenal healer himself. He had had a private practice for 30 years. He had helped thousands of people, and he had terrible self-care. He did not embrace any of the stuff that we're talking about here today, whether it's food or water or mindset. He came from a different era. So he drank coffee and Diet Coke and ate hamburgers and hot dogs and whatever. And actually the kind of cancer he developed was preventable. This was not a cancer that came up. No one in my family had ever had cancer. But he had stored so much stress and had such poor self-care that he developed cancer. So like Seema had mentioned before with the client that you had that found out that she had cancer and she was pregnant and the boyfriend, right? This was one of my moments where I was like, okay, what am I doing? My mother had passed away 20 years earlier. So there's something, I don't know if any of you lost both of your parents, but there's something that happens after you've lost both of your parents where you're like, this is it. Like, I'm on the edge now. Like, whatever I'm going to do with my life has to happen now. Like, I can't just be like, oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. There is no, the kind of long runway in front of you. Now there's like, no, it's now. I got to do this now. So that was a really intense experience for me. And what I did was, I did sort of a life review, kind of like when your life flashes before your eyes. So I was a teenage beauty queen. I was in beauty pageants from the time that I was 3 until the time that I was about 18. And then my first career was coming to Manhattan. I got a modeling contract. And I was going to be a supermodel, and I was going to be, I don't know what. But that was what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I came to New York, I did some modeling, and I discovered that it was not the glamour that I saw in the magazines. I was measured on a daily basis and told I was fat. I was exactly the same size that I am now, and I was told repeatedly that I was fat, and I was told repeatedly that I needed to lose weight, and I tried really hard. I stopped eating, I held my breath, I tried really, really hard to lose weight. After about a year of doing that, it just became completely unsustainable. Like, it's unsustainable to not eat for a year. I don't know if anybody's tried that before, but that doesn't work. So I retreated, and I had to figure out what was I going to do with my life. And because I'm really good at school, I was that girl in the front of the class, always like raising her hand and excited about getting homework and asking for more. Because I'm that girl, I decided I'm just going to go back to school. I'm going to go back to school. So I studied, I got my bachelor's in psych, I got my master's in education, I got my PhD in healing, and I started teaching. But after teaching for about, 5 or 6 years, this was me. I was not very excited about teaching anymore. Also, I don't know if you know this, but college professors do not make very much money. So I hardly had any money. My kind of enthusiasm and inspiration for my career was waning. I was not feeling, super excited about the trajectory of my career. And I decided, because my dad at this point had passed, that I really needed to get out of my comfort zone, take a big risk, and figure out what was the stand that I wanted to take in the world, what was the legacy that I wanted to have, who did I want to serve, and how did I want to serve them. And so what I did is I got in my car and I drove back to New York, where my journey had started many, many years before. My brother was living in the Bronx. I brought my cat and we moved onto his couch in the Bronx, and I was like, there's got to be somebody in Manhattan that can tell me what to do. Because like Manhattan is the city of dreams. Everybody here seems to know everything. You know, it's like all the billionaires and all the, you know, fashion models, and people here just seem to know what to do, right? So I was like, I'm just gonna come back to the city. There's got to be people here that can help me. And in my mind, I was like, I need a mentor. I need a mentor. I need a community. I need to learn from people. You know, I need guidance. I need people that can talk. What the hell is a podcast? What's a podcast? I was like, somebody in Manhattan knows what a podcast is, and they're probably going to be able to tell me, right? So I started networking around. This is where I met Shweta at a Body Local event. And at that event, I also met a man that was the CEO of a new startup. And it was a health and wellness startup. And I was like, I know about health and wellness. So we had this like little kind of serendipitous meeting. And he invited me to come and be a consultant at his company. I'm like, oh, I can be a consultant. I don't really know what a consultant is, but if he's going to give me money and I can go there and I can learn some things about startup, then I'm going to go. So I went and I worked for him at his startup, and it was like a networking application, and we made some videos, and we went to some events and everything. And actually putting myself in that container was very uncomfortable. The language they spoke in that office, I was like, everything was like an acronym, ROI and CTF. I mean, just like everything was letters, and I didn't know what any of the letters meant, and everybody that worked there was half my age. And that's like the most humiliating thing when you go into a work environment and they're like on Slack and they're on Trello and they're on, you know what I mean? And like they don't talk to you in the office. They like text each other. You're sitting next to them and they send you a text. And I'm like, dude, did you just send me a text? Like I'm sitting next to you. Why are you texting me? I don't know, but that's how the environment was. So I was like, I'm getting something here, but I'm not getting really something. So I started to kind of go out into the world in New York and look for community. And I stumbled onto some incredible women entrepreneur events. I joined the Savor community, and that's how I met Seema in the Savor community. And I just kind of dipped in to the ladies. I wanted a woman's perspective. I wanted to know what women were doing as entrepreneurs. And I dived into these different communities, and I was also an avid reader. Because I'm a nerd and because I'm an academic, I'm like, I'm gonna read 50 books about this. Maybe I will figure out this foreign language if I read all the books about it. One of the books that I read was called Know Your Value, and it was by Mika Brzezinski. And she's a woman who is the co-host of a morning show on TV. And I read her book, and it gave me that sort of feeling like, okay, even though I don't know what I'm doing, maybe I could just value myself enough to kind of step more into this space. And I went on Facebook to like follow Mika Brzezinski, and on her Facebook page it said she was having a contest and you could win $10,000. And I was like, I want $10,000. I'm a broke ass professor and I want $10,000. And you had to make a video about why you wanted the $10,000. And I did what you did. I spent 2 hours making a 60-second video about why I wanted the 10 grand. Well, Mika called me and said, you've been selected as a finalist in the Know Your Value competition, and we want you to come to Washington, D.C., and we want you to tell not only the 800 people in the audience, but all the people at MSNBC why you want $10,000, right? So now I have a new problem, which is, why do I want $10,000? Right, because like it's one thing to say I'm poor, right? I'm a poor professor, you should feel sorry for me, but it's another thing to say, no, like really, why? Why do I want $10,000? The why was because I wanted to create a community like this. That was my why. I wanted to serve women healers, health and wellness entrepreneurs. I had floods of girls coming out of trainings in yoga, in massage, in holistic health, and they didn't know any more than I knew about how to navigate podcasts and strategy and branding. They didn't know anything. And so I found my why when I was forced to find my why. So she flew me to DC, they gave me a fancy dress, they did my hair, I pitched on the stage. I lost. But the woman that won was this incredible woman who was a military vet and was creating hip-hop dance classes for urban youth. So it was enough of a jump and a push for me to say, okay, I'm going to do the entrepreneur thing. Okay, unlike the fancy dress and the hotel room in DC and the red carpet rolled out, this was me on my couch at home with like, oh my God, like I'd just gotten up in front of the whole entire world and was like, I'm gonna create something. But then I was at home with my laptop and not a clue what I was supposed to do. So what do when that happens? You Google it. I'm Googling it. I'm gonna Google everything I need to know about starting my business. And I fell down a very deep rabbit hole into Google. I signed up for every single webinar and every mailing list and every download until my computer actually blew up and I had to go get another one. I mean, I just binged on all the information I could find, and I actually didn't really know very much more than I knew before I subscribed to everything. So I knew that I had to figure it out. So then I was like, I'm taking this show on the road. I'm going on the road. And you mentioned, Seema, in your presentation, it's all about the relationships, right? So I started out on a journey around the country. I connected with people in the Mind, Body, Green community. I went to the Revitalize event in Tucson, Arizona. I connected with Jonathan Field, who's a local here, and he has a mastermind group. I went to JJ Virgin's event in San Diego where I met JP Sears. I don't know if you guys know him. He does those parody videos that are like all over the internet. I went to hear Danielle talk and connect. I was just like, I need to get around the people that I think are cool, that are doing things that I think are interesting, and I need to learn from them. I need to figure this out. And at the same time that I was going around and meeting the people and asking questions, I was also trying to take everything that I had learned and get it out of my brain and get it onto the page. I was writing an online course. I was writing an ebook. I was putting it all out there. But there's one thing to create, and then the other thing is to invite, right? How do you get people to then engage with what you're doing? And I didn't know. I didn't know. So I picked up the phone and I called 8 of my former students that had been in my graduate program, and I said, I just made something. I think it will help you. Will you just participate in this, just in exchange for feedback? All I want is your feedback. I want you to tell me if you think this is good or not good, or if it's something that has value for you. So 2015, I launched my course, and my course was called Women in Wellness Career something. It was a Women in Wellness course, and then this ebook was also the curriculum from the course. And it was about, a little bit about social media, a little bit about public speaking, a little bit about blogging, about presenting at conferences. It was sort of a synopsis of things that I had learned in the trajectory of my career. And then I invited some women to participate in the course. And we used a platform called Zoom, which is like Skype. It's a video conferencing. And we started having conversations. And we started learning together. And at the end of the 7 weeks that they had committed to me, they had said, oh my God, this is like life-changing. This is simple. All I gotta do is click on a link, a window opens up, I can have a conversation with my peers. This gives me such a sense of relief that I'm not in this by myself. I'm not doing this alone. This is something that other women are also doing. And this is fun, because what we're doing is supposed to be fun. Like, we're all doing this because we don't want to be in a cubicle, or we don't want to be driving an Uber car. Like, we want to be serving people we love, and we want to be having a good time, and it's supposed to be fun. And so initially I thought, I'm just going to create online courses. But then the women asked me, and I think this is really important when you're in the service-based industry, when you're an entrepreneur, they asked me, can we just have a conversation every week? Do we not have to have curriculum and homework and assignments? Can we just have conversation? So then I was like, yeah, let's have conversation. So I created something called the Women in Wellness Club, where all the women come on the call every week and we have a conversation. And sometimes it's about podcasting, and sometimes it's about branding, and sometimes it's about mindset. It's whatever they need in the moment to just get to the next place that they're trying to get to, and that's it. Now, what's awesome about doing work that you love is that you learn about yourself and you learn about your community. And one thing that I've learned about the people that I'm serving, which are all healers. For example, in this image, Jamie's a health coach, right? Claudia's a nutritionist. Amy teaches teaches meditation, and she's a former Google employee. She did massage there for 20 years, right? Katie runs Fit Social, which is like a fitness, socializing, eating healthy kind of thing. Wanadi does like hormone health. She's from South Africa. I mean, like, these women are from all over the world, and they're all doing amazing health and wellness things. But what I've seen, and a solution that I'm trying to create, is that we come into this space and we don't have our shit together, right? We come into the space, and it's like we're driving this car, and the window's broken, so we have the plastic bag that's duct taped around the side, and then one of the tires was flat, so we have this like spare tire, so the car is like a little bit lopsided, and we're going down the road, and we're trying to build something, but actually the car is not completely put together. It's not completely put together in a way that's going to facilitate our forward movement. And what are those pieces? What is the window? The window is the strategy, right? The tire is the mindset. All these different pieces of the car are the things that you need to move the vehicle forward. And so this is the beginning of that program. The next phase of that program is coming together in a concentrated time together, 5 days, of building all the pieces, the images, the copy, the website, all the pieces, so that you can move forward in a vehicle that allows you to get where you're trying to go. Now, this is my dream and what I've created to help people move forward. You have yours too. And you mentioned to me earlier, like, this is about retiring and not relearning everything, but this is about making a transition and allowing me to continue to serve, but to embrace all of these new things and to move forward, right? So this is one way to do that. One way to do that is to create the vehicle to allow you to move forward. And this is very messy. One of the things that has consistently been a theme in our community is that people show up every week, especially the new people, and they say, I'm having this terrible problem, and I'm so ashamed to even tell you that I can barely even get this out of my mouth, and then they're like, I don't know who my target customer is. And there's like a roar of laughter in the group because they really have this shame around not knowing something, that they think that they're the only person who doesn't know. But this is not true. Everybody is going through this transformation together. We are all on this journey together, and there are so many great resources and so many ways that we can support each other as we move along this journey. So that's a little bit about me, and that's a little bit about why we're here, why we've come together, and how we can support each other to move forward and to not feel like, oh my God, really? What's a podcast, right? Like, that's great. That's a great question to ask, and it's a great question that Karen can then support you. And because you have been in practice for 30 years, you have so much wisdom to share with Karen. I mean, there's an exchange there. There's an exchange there that we can all grow and learn and transform from. So thank you so much for coming out, for hanging out with us today, for being here, for being part of this. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're here